Hey there, welcome back. So in the last video we covered the backend related code. So in this video we will cover the UI part. So whatever components is needed and whatever variables are needed to handle the logic and all, we'll try to finish off in this video. Okay. So here whatever is by default provided to us, let us first clear all of them. So I'm going to clear. So I'm just going to erase all of this, and for now I'm just inside one div. I'm just gonna say this is like home page. Okay, so let's do this and let's check the output now. Okay, and so if you see here and this output, okay, fine, let me refresh this. Yeah, so this is the home page. So and also the background also I'm going to take it off. So here the styles section, whatever the styles they have provided by default, so I'm going to take all of them. So that is these things. Okay, so now if we head back, okay, fine, so we have cleared all the default provided stuff. Okay, in this first I'm going to create the variables that are needed for me. So first thing is I'm gonna need a variable to keep track of errors occurred if while calling the openai API, that is which we have exposed wrapped under one more ask API. Okay, and also to load while we are making a call to that, we should know that are we in the process of making a call, and also whatever the user is entering in the text box, that also I need a variable, and whatever the option the user has selected. So that is the suffice variables needed for this page. So let's first create those four variables. Okay, so that is let's destructure them. So error, set error, and this we will by default keep this as empty string, and similarly the loading, set loading, and this we will keep it as a false, the default value, and the now the input value, that is whatever the user is going to type in the text box, that we would be providing. Okay, and this all we will keep this as the empty string by default. Okay, and finally the last variable is the selected template. So this is like will provide a list of options, and in that the user would be able to select one template. So this variable is going to keep track of the user selected template. Okay, so template and this, so let's make this would be of type string, and we are going to import the enum which we have just created. As I said, by default we'll keep this as a flowchart. Okay, fine, so these are the four variables, and now let's clean this input. So if the input is not null, I'm going to replace if any spaces are there with hyphen and all. Okay, so here if this is the case, so I'm going to replace, so let's use this here. Yep, and replace this by hyphen. Okay, and convert this to lowercase, if not just empty string. Okay, fine, and also the output that that we will receive, for that also we need one variable. So let's store in one variable called chart. Okay, so since we are going to kind of generate diagrams, so let me create one variable to store the response in, and make this as a empty string. Okay, and this let's write one function to handle the call to our API and try to get the response, and we will set that into our chart variable. Okay, and so let's name this is this as handle flow. Okay, you can name whatever you want. So and make this as a synchronous function, and this would receive one variable which is of type any. This is nothing but event thing, so we will prevent this default event so that side effects on this page is not applied. And if there is no input, okay, and it's not loading. We're just going to return this. Okay, fine. Now if firstly what we'll do, we will set that loading variable to true. Okay, and then try to make a call in the try block and see if there is any error occurred. We'll try to handle in the catch section. Okay, so let's store the result into one variable called response, and here we'll make use of the Axios client library. So let me quickly install that. So here I'm going to install the Axios. Okay, yeah, so it is installed. So let me make here the post request, and our endpoint is api/ask, and here the body params that would need be supplying for this endpoint is input and the selected template. Okay, fine. So here after this we will check if there is response dot data dot next. Okay, then we are going to set that into our chart variable. So that is response dot data dot next into our chart variable. Okay, so sorry, it has to be text, man. Sorry. Okay, fine. So this is the the output that will be setting in the chart variable, or else we're gonna set kind of saying that some issue occurred into our error variable. So here I'm going to say that sorry, a small issue occurred. So just we're gonna indicate that something wrong occurred while calling to an API. Okay, fine. So this is the error message we are going to show. If something goes wrong while handling the API call, we'll just gonna catch in the catch block and console it and reply back and set error the same thing. Okay, so here console.log e whatever we thing, and here I'm gonna set the error as same, which is the sorry, something is a small issue occurred. Okay, something. Okay, fine. So this is what will be setting the error to, and finally we will set loading to false if everything went according to our expectations. Okay, fine. So this is the function handle flow function, which is going to handle getting the data from the API and setting the loading to true and changing it to false, and storing the response in our chart variable and all. Okay, this is going to handle that. Fine. So now let's focus on rendering the UI. So here let's first get the nav section. So there kind of will I'm just gonna put out the title of our application in the left part, and in the right part I'm just gonna say made with so and so by, and I'll put my GitHub and the Twitter icon. Okay, so for that what we'll do, instead of writing here, which is kind of making a bigger HTML code, let's write separate component for nav section and make use of that component here. Okay, so let me create one folder inside the source folder called components. Okay, and in this I'm going to create a new file called nav.tsx. Okay, so here we'll just quickly configure that component. Okay, so this, let's name this as nav. Okay, and this is not going to receive any input params. Okay, and we are going to return this, and here I'm going to wrap here. Let's use styling for this as fixed, and if we want it to be at the top, so let's make this as top 0, left 0, and z as 50, so that vertically it will be almost top. Okay, and make this as width full. So this is the div of this nav component, and now let's wrap everything inside our nav tag. Okay, so let's give this as a item center and footer, and give padding 1 in all directions, and I want text to be neutral content. Okay, so fine. Okay, and in this the first div is for the title, so let me give some styling for this as well. I'm gonna make this as items center, and make this as grid flow the call direction. Okay, and here inside one div I'm going to give this as something like badge, and make this as a small, and make this as self and here the title of our application, so that is diagram flow. Okay, so yeah, first let's quickly export this and check it out, and later we'll complete the remaining part. Okay, so this is now. Okay, fine. So heading back to our index, so just above this I'm going to import the component and let's check it out. Okay, so here one second, let's comment this. Okay, so here it is fine. Okay, and also let's give styling for this div, our main index div. So let's make this as flex, and we want the justify as n, and items to be centered, and the direction is column, and height is off screen. Okay, yeah, so now let's complete the remaining sections in the nav component. So heading back there, so after this div I'm going to create one more div and add the text made with love by, and add the Twitter and the GitHub icon. Okay, so here quickly let's make this as grid flow called directions, and give gap as a 2, and if it's a medium screen let's make it as a place self center. Okay, and if it's a medium let's give this as a justify self n. Okay, so let me fine, and let's give margin right some space for, and give the font as serif. Fine. Now inside this, first inside this span thing I'm going to wrap the text. Okay, so that is made with this text. So now if you head back, okay, it is here. Let's quickly I will change this. Okay, fine. So first let's complete this. Okay, now after this I'm going to have a two icons, one for Twitter and one for GitHub. Okay, so here this I'm going to get the icons from something like React icons, or we can take it from Iconify React. So let me first install that. So here npm install, let's make this as a dev dependency. Okay, Iconify React. Okay, so we're installing the icons. Okay, first I'm going to wrap this both of them inside the anchor tag. Okay, and give the styling for this. So let's give this styling as button goes, and these are the custom stylings. I'll give this I will configure this in globals.css very soon. Okay, fine. And the href URL for this, the Twitter thing. So I'm just gonna give twitter.com and my username. Okay, and make this open in the new page. So give here it as a blank, and let's give this as a no referral. Okay, inside this we're gonna wrap inside the icon thing. Okay, so let me quickly install that, import that, import icon from this. Okay, fine. Here the things needed for this is the icon. So icon would be this, and the styling for this, let's make this text as Excel, and give color for this, let's give dynamic XI color. So that is 1DA 1F2. okay, so the blue color. Fine, yeah. So let's close this. So if you see, okay, the icon is not visible. I think, did I install the dependency? Yeah, I did. Okay, let me check on that. Ideally it should be okay. Fine, I will check it. So here we have given the styling for our anchor tag, which is btn and btn ghost, but I see that as the issue. So let me quickly check that. So let me remove this and now check this. No, I don't still see icon. Okay, I think so. Let me check the dependencies. Okay, fine. Let me first check where am I missing in the nav component itself. Okay, so I did the spell mistake here. It has to be Twitter fill, not Twitter full. So now if we head back, yeah, the icon is present. Fine, I did mistake here, the full instead of fill. Okay, fine, so that is ready. So let's do the same for the GitHub icon as well. So here I'm gonna give my GitHub URL. So that is fine, and let's open this in the new page. So by giving this target as a blank, and we pass in this no referrer. Okay, and inside this we'll wrap the icon component, and here the icon name is hacker icons, and here this is GitHub fill, and give here text as large. Okay, so if we check it out, yes, so this is, we will change this. So going here to our top section, so here we'll have to configure this as, so this is the output now. So let's quickly change that. Okay, so going to our nav component, so first let's make this as the as flex. Okay, and check the output now. Okay, they are in the single flex row direction now, and now this diagram flow on this made with love should be in the same row. So let's make that also as a flex. So this is this, and also make this as justify between, so that they would be, yep. So to the extreme ends. Yeah, fine. Now the nav component is pretty clear. So let's now next thing that we would be focusing on is the thing. So we will install the mermaid library and make use of that component to render the code we have received from the output using that component. Okay, so first let me install that library. So that is npm install mermaid. So let's what we will do here is let's create a separate component for this. Okay, and try to write the logic to handle exporting the svg and also the copying the mermaid code and kind of configure the export button here and showcase the svg and the copy mermaid code list. Okay, so let's first get that thing done. Okay, so inside the components folder itself, let me create a new file called mermaid.tsx. okay, so let me create a component for that. So we will name this as mermaid, and this is of we'll define one interface. Okay, so that return of this would be like chart and the name. So let's define this as an interface like I mermaid, and chart would be of type string, and same name would be of type a string. Okay, fine. So here this would be of type mermaid. Okay, and as I said, this would receive chart and name. Okay, first here if there is a chart content, I mean there is chart is not null, we will load that. Okay, so here using the use effect hook, so use effect. So here the check is if chart is not null. So this is what mermaid dot content loaded. So this will load the content from the chart. Okay, and this use effect depends upon this chart variable. Okay, so this is the so that is the use effect hook. Okay, and now the function to export the svg. So let's quickly write that. So that is export svg, and let's make this as asynchronous. And here first we'll get the svg data. So let's name the variable as svg data, and here make the call on mermaid.render text one and pass in the chart. Okay, so this will give us the svg data, and now create a svg blob out of that. So svg blob, and create here new blob. Okay, and this would be svg data dot svg, and here this would be of type image slash svg plus xml, and set character set as udf8. okay, so this is the svg blob, and here then we will create a url out of it. So svg url, and here we'll make use of this url and call the create object url by passing in the svg blob. Okay, and next we'll create the download link. I mean we'll create a anchor tag and simulate the downloading thing. Okay, so that is in a const download link. Okay, document dot create element, and we are going to create anchor tag element, and we are going to have the href for this as the svg url which we have just created above, and here on download link dot download, the name of this we're going to set is the name dot svg. Okay, fine. Then after this we are going to append this to our body, okay, as a child. So append child and this or this download link, and we're going to call the click event on this element, and finally we're going to remove this from our DOM. So document dot body dot remove child, and pass in the that object. Okay, fine. So this is how we are going to create an anchor tag and assign the svg url for that, and name, and also the trigger the click event, and then finally remove that child from our DOM. Okay, so this is how we are going to export the svg. Fine. After this we'll have one more function to copy the mermaid code. Okay, so let's define the function name as copy mermaid code, and let's make this also the asynchronous function, and here we're gonna use the navigator dot clipboard dot write text. Okay, whatever is there in our chart. Okay, and we're gonna showcase the alert message as a mermaid code and show that content. Okay, so this is how we're going to use the navigator api and copy the mermaid code. And now let's quickly focus on the rendering the UI. That is nothing but the export button and the two options that we are supposed to show once the user clicks on that button. Okay, so here returning, so everything will wrap inside the div, and let's give the styling for this as relative, and make this as widthful, and make this flex and justify center. Okay, and inside this one more div, and we will wrap the label inside this div and make this as an absolute, and give the right one and bottom one so that it will be in the bottom right section. Okay, and give margin as a 2, and I want z index to be 50 so that it will be vertically stacked up on other things. Okay, and give this as a drop down, and drop down, and fine. So inside this we'll have the label, and here the tab index will give it as a 0 by default, and class name give this as a button, and a button success, and here I'll give margin as 1 in all directions. Okay, and the label of this is export. Okay, after this, just beneath this we'll have the unordered list and showcase the two options. One is the copy mermaid code, and another is the svg. Okay, so here again this will give by default tab index as 0, and the styling for this I'm gonna give a drop down content, and make this as a menu, and padding in all directions too, and make this shadow, and give background as a gray color, and let's give something like 700, and make the corners as a box, so that is a rounded box, and width let's give like 52. Okay, fine. So this is the unordered list, and inside this we'll have a tool list, and we'll wrap button on click. I'm going to trigger the copy mermaid code, so this text says button text says copy mermaid code. Okay, fine. So in one more list I'm going to wrap a svg button. Okay, so here inside the list tag, okay, inside the button, so here on click, so let's call the export svg function, and the text of this button is svg. Okay, So yeah, pretty much this is the mermaid component, and before that we'll have to showcase the content that to be read. Okay, so we will make use of this transform wrapper from uh, one more library, which is kind of will be able to zoom in the chart and see. So that is nothing but react zoom pan pinch. So I'm going to install that. So here react zoom pan pinch. Okay, fine. So here this library helps us to easily zoom in the diagrams and all. Okay, so after this div, okay, so outside of this I'm going to configure that. So that is nothing but transform wrapper, and inside this we'll have the transform component. So this one, and give here the styling for this as width full, and wrapper class I'll give this again as width full and height full, and inside this we'll have the div, and here let's give the styling for this as mermaid, and here this mermaid is custom styling which I will define it. Okay, and give margin bottom as 100. Okay, and inside this div we will wrap the content of the chart. Okay, fine. So this is after this let's give some spacing. Okay, yeah, so this is the pretty much the mermaid component. Okay, so now fine, let's quickly complete one more component as well, that is the option for the user to select the templates options. Okay, so for that also I'm going to create one component, so that is like select template. So let me quickly create that. So select template dot tsx. So let's name the component name as the same select template. Okay, and this is going to be functional component of type, let's define one interface which will have a callback function. Like on change we are going to trigger a HTML select element event. Okay, so let's define that as one interface. So that would be like I select template. Okay, here the callback function name is on change, so this would receive input of type react dot change event, and here the type is HTML select element. Okay, and return type is void. Okay, yeah, so this is going to return of this type select template. Okay, fine, and here we going to destructure the on change function. Okay, and fine, then after this we'll focus on returning the UI. So here we're going to use the select tag, and on change we're going to trigger the on change callback function and give some styling for this, which is select and select bordered, and we'll select the size as large. Okay, and here let's define one helper templates list, kind of a dictionary with a label and the value in that. So let's define here first. Let's define a properties that will be having in each dictionary, that is label and value. So let's define the interface for that. So I will name this as I template. okay, and this would be having a label which is of a type string, and also value which is of a type template enum which we have created. Okay, so now let's define the templates array. So let's name this as templates, which is of type array of the above interface. So here first label is nothing but a flowchart, okay, and the value is template enum dot flowchart, and second label is mind map. Just whatever we have defined, so those labels and values will be adding here. So template enum dot mind map, and do the same for other things as well, that is timeline. Here value is timeline, label is user journey, and value is template enum dot user journey. Okay, and the next is entity relationship, and the value is template enum dot entity relationship, and the other is sequence diagram. So here the value is template enum dot sequence, and the last one, so this is a state diagram, and value is template enum dot state. Okay, so this is the templates array, and that we are going to use this and display inside the select tag. Okay, fine. So here we will map through that templates array. So take each item, and here we're going to render inside the options. So option value would be item dot value, and the key would be item dot label, and the label we're going to display item dot label. So this is how we are going to render the list of templates options to the user. So this is the select template component. So now heading back to our index page. Okay, so let's make use of the components which we have just created and complete this index page also. Okay, so here first thing what we will be doing is we will try to showcase the loading thing. So if loading is true, we'll try to showcase the text as loading. If not, if chart value is not null, then we will use the mermaid component and render the diagram on the screen. Okay, so if neither of them is present, we will just showcase the text like generate a flow chart, or else like diagram flow with AI. Okay, so let's write that styling here. So I'm going to wrap everything inside this div. So let's give this as a flex one so that it will occupy as much of space it's needed, and so let's make this as a justify center, and border give 2, and give the dashed border. Okay, fine, and make a width as full, and overflow we're gonna scroll this. Okay, fine. So here first, as I said, based on loading, if this is true, then we're going to showcase the text saying that loading. Okay, so this h1 tag we're going to wrap inside the div by giving some styling for that. So this also will make this as a flex, and direction I'll make this as a column, and justify center. Okay, and we're going to animate the pulse thing. Okay, fine, Now inside this h1 and give the styling here like text, make this as much big as possible, that is 7 times XL, and make the font color as black. Okay, and the text is loading with something like dots. Okay, let's give 3 dots. Okay, so this is showcased only if the loading variable is true. Okay, if not, so I have to close this div. Okay, fine. So if not, the thing that I'm going to check for now is if chart is not null. Okay, then I'm going to make use of the mermaid component and showcase it. Okay, so the diagram, so let me import that, this one, and here the chart. So I'm going to pass the value inside the chart variable and also the name. Yeah, so this is only if chart variable is not null. Okay, if neither of them, this is what we're going to show here. So inside div I'm going to wrap the text like generate diagram flow with AI. So let's give styling for this. So make this as a flex, and direction I'll keep it as a column, and justify center, pretty standard stuff, and make the text color as white. And inside this I will have 3 headers. Okay, kind of h1 tags, and here the styling class name, let's give the font size for this as a 7 times XL, and give the color as black. So here the first thing I would be mentioning is generate. Okay, fine. So after this, in the h3 tag again some styling for this. So text I'm gonna make this as 8 times XL, and the font as a black, and make our green text as success. So okay, fine, and here it will be diagram flow, and after this one more h2 tag, and inside that let's give styling this as name 5 times XL, and make a font as black, and the text here will be showing is with AI. Okay, so this is the thing. So if so let me close this. Yep, so this is the thing. If chart value is null and it's not even loading, so if neither of them is true, we're going to just showcase the text that generate diagram flow with AI. Okay, fine. After this, inside one more div, we're gonna give the option for the user to enter the input, and also the select the options with the component which we have just created. Okay, so that just out of this div, let's create one more div and make that styling, make that as a flex. Okay, and use the form thing. So since we are taking the values from the user, let's give it as a form, and on submit we are going to call the function which we have just created, that is handle flow, and give here styling as form control. Yep, and now inside this div, first thing which we'll have is the input thing. Okay, so let's give the class name as groups, so that input and button will be inside this div. Okay, fine. So first is the input. So here let's give some styling for this, make this as an input, and make this as a large, and also the bordered input I want it to be bordered, and make it this as a green color, success, and give width as something like let's say 96. Okay, yeah, and the value in this is nothing but the value inside the input variable, and on change we're going to update that variable with the callback function, that is set input thing. So here set input, and the value inside e.target.value will be set into that input variable. Okay, fine, and this is going to accept of type text, and a placeholder we will write what the diagram flow is about. Okay, fine. So after this autofocus, let's keep it as on. Yeah, so this is pretty much the input thing. Okay, One second. Okay, the string is not assignable to type boolean. Okay, fine, let's check first. If there is error, we'll change it to the boolean type. Okay, so after this, the button to submit that, so this is of type button, sorry, submit. Okay, and give some styling for this. So here let's give some custom styling which I'm gonna define now. So I'm gonna name that as button grad. Okay, which I will style that. Okay, and here based on if it's a loading, I'm going to say the text of that is loading, if not the empty string. Okay, fine. Then so here if the error is true, I'm gonna say the text on that as a retry, if not generate diagram flow. Okay, fine. So this is the button. Okay, after this div we have to provide an option to for the user to select the template he wanted to generate. So here we're gonna import that component. Okay, so here let me go here. I didn't export this, so export default select a template. So here we'll make use of that. So let me import that component here. So select a template. Okay, on change we are going to update the value into set selected template variable. Okay, that is c dot target dot value. Okay, unclose this component. Okay, fine. So here let's give the let's define the custom styling for that inside globals.css. Okay, so there button grad, right? So here this is this one. So let's apply and give here background gradient color to right. So from here the color from which we wanted to change, so let's give teal to lime. Okay, so I'm gonna give lime, let's say number 200, and the text color I wanted to be black. Okay, fine. So this is it, and there is some issue here. Okay, here one second. Let's check it out. Okay, so it's running. So if I see in the browser, okay, so yeah, there is a border, and there is a thing, and then there is input, and then the thing. Okay, so first let's try to give here, like let me give here Google Drive, and I'm gonna ask for timeline. Okay, let's me change this as timeline. So click on this. Okay, so there is an issue. Okay, there is an issue with the templates we have provided. So the error was the MD markdown, raw markdown, it was not able to load. So for that we'll have to install one loader and configure that inside our next.config.js, for webpack to understand it. So first, so if you see here, if I just type something like Google Drive and try for this thing, you see there is a loader issue. It says that appropriate loader to handle this file type. So for that we'll have to install one loader. So I installed a raw loader. So you just install npm npm install raw loader, and after you have installed this inside next.config.js, we'll have to let the webpack know which loader to use for .md files. Okay, so this is how we are going to configure. So webpack config, and here config dot experiments, and we are gonna spread this experiments comma top level await is true. Okay, and then config dot module dot rules dot push, we are gonna test the files of type .md. Okay, and for this we're gonna use the raw loader. Okay, and finally I'm gonna return the config. So now if we go ahead and check this out, we should be able to see the output. So going here, let me refresh this and try to do the same. So for now I'll do Google Docs. Let's do the user journey and try to generate. So you see now the loading is working. Before we used to get the error, and if you see now the Google Docs and the user journey is generated, and now if you just click on this svg, we should be able to download this as svg. If click on this, we should be able to copy mermaid code. So I'm just clicking on this. You see this is downloaded, so I can just click on this to have a look at it. So this is the svg, and similarly if I click on this, I see that there is an alert popping up with the code that is generated for this. Okay, so this is cool, but you see I think the functionality whatever we thought of is accomplished. And if you see the other things, so let me click on sequence diagram. It should be able to generate sequence diagram. Yeah, so sequence diagram, so you can zoom in. Okay, so this is good, and if you see here the state diagram, so let's try to generate state diagram. Yeah, so state diagram is also generated, and similarly you can download and copy the mermaid code. But if you see the background, it is white, but the things I have showcased was in black, and also there is a text that we are not able to see because this text is white. Okay, so let's figure out how to change this background. So heading back to our code base, so that we'll have to make change inside our tailwind config.js. okay, there we'll have to configure the themes for our application. So for now I'm going to use the Daisy UI. So let's first install that to apply the themes, dark themes for our app. So this is Daisy UI. Okay, so first thing what we are supposed to do is we have to add that as a plugins. Okay, so here inside this we will have to add inside require, and the plugin is the Daisy UI. And now for Daisy UI property we'll have to configure themes. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so Daisy UI and themes. So here we're gonna have the app dark. Okay, and here we're gonna define the primary color. Okay, so let's do it quickly. So 004F. okay, primary and a secondary color. So here this would be of F6D860. Fine. And the accent color, it is 37CDBE. okay. And neutral color, I'm gonna give it as 3D4451. and base 100 050505. okay. Similarly for border radius, button also will configure that quickly. So rounded box, so we will have one rem, and rounded button, let's have 0.5 rem, rounded badge 1.9 rems, and then animation input, let's make this as 0.2 seconds, and then button text case, we'll make this as uppercase, and button focus scale, let's make this as close to 0.95, and a border button, one pixel, and the tab border 1 pixel. okay. And then tab radius, this I'll give it as a 0.5 rems. okay. So this is how we are going to configure the themes. And now, and also I'm going to remove this, make this as empty. So I'm going to just take it off this background image and all stuff. So now let's check it out. Yep, you see Daisy UI theme is applied, and exactly the way I showcased in the first video, we are able to see this, and beautifully styled. okay. So if I talk about now Google Meet timeline, so if I just select timeline and try to, now it's trying to load. okay, fine. So it has generated for us, and also let's click on user journey and try to generate a user journey. Yep. So Google Meet timeline before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So we'll be able to export it. okay. So yeah, so now you see the styling is also cool, so everything is fine. So this is it, the thing I wanted to talk about. So yeah, so that is it for this application, and I think we pretty much covered the whole, and I hope you learned something from this project, and I also learned a lot. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for more videos on this channel. Thank you.